called me a couple of days ago that, Nana, where are you? I said, Mufie. He says, you have to come and chair a program. I didn't even ask what the program is. I just got up, saluted in my room. She was nowhere and said, yours obedient servant, I'll show up. So I'm here because I was directed by my former boss, my mother, big sister, everything, Dr. Atene Fufi, who is incidentally the chair of this committee. And I accept to chair this. Let me also say that for everybody here, Nananum, Queen Mothers, former members of parliament, the municipal chief executives, I see my good friend, comrade in arms, as well as the decentralization agenda of Ghana is concerned. The Director General of IE is also here. And then my very good sister, Rapporteur General. Since I retired, I've been trying to look for her to undertake some capacity building intervention. There should be succession planning. She's been doing this for as long as I can remember. So today we'll take the notes and see what happens after this. And the moment I realized that she was going to do the chair, do the rapporteur business, I knew that had nothing to do. Because you do the work so much that, well, that when you finish, all that you say is, all former prayers are still valid. So on that note, I wish to accept to chair. I know this is very important. This is very critical. I mean, remuneration, emoluments, salary administration, it's a very critical, important part of our human resource management in general. But usually, when it comes to Article 71, people, it takes on a different dimension. Then the last time I'm informed that there was this change was about 2020, so it's been some time. And I'm looking forward to hearing from our very excellent people, what they have, and then I hope that the discussions will go on well. Thank you for, Madam, once again for doing me the honors that I should come and chair and accept. But you know, before I sit down, Kafi was making the point that the MC has a lot of powers. Let me say this. When I joined the civil service many years ago, we used to have a system where the chairman really would manage the whole proceedings. Then somewhere along the line, this thing changed and they brought these MCs and facilitators. So you are only here on borrowed time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nana Chair. I forgot to add that all my powers are derived from the chairman. So if I'm acting, the chairman knows exactly why I'm acting because he gave me the powers and he can take the powers back. Thank you very much, Nana, for your warm words to start us off on our journey. So I want to introduce one of the members on the dais, and I'll bring the other one later on. So Professor George Jan Bafuo, to my far left, is a member of the Presidential Committee on Emoluments. I'll skip the lady for reasons it will be clear to you very soon. Professor Isaac Osei Akoto is another member. If you can just rise so we can see you. He's a member of the committee. Engineer Benjamin Arthur is also another member of the Presidential Committee on Emoluments. And Gloria Ofori Wedu Esquire, another member of the committee. And the secretary of the committee, the Presidential Committee on Emoluments, is Nana Kwabena Ej Mensa. Secretary, there he is. The chair of the committee is Dr. Mrs. Janet Ampedu Fofie Esquire, and she has her remarks right now. She's going to welcome us at this moment to this particular conference. Dr. Fofie.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning is a weak one. I didn't come Diana. I want to see Vim, a little bit more of Vim. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
You see, I had my slight watch this morning, so you can see my energy levels are very, very high. And I hope yours is going to be high also. Nana Chairman for this occasion. He's a colleague. He said all these things. Don't mind him. He's a good colleague. We work very, very well together. Unfortunately, we're both, right? We both have served, and now we can take it easy a little bit, hopefully. Nananum and Queen Mothers who are here with us, our former members of parliament who are here. And I think I have to add, we invited some of you very, very late. And so it's very, very heartwarming to see all of you turn up. And our former MPs belong to that group. Thank you so much for coming. We've got some municipal chief executives also here. You're most welcome. Also with us here today, we have heads and representatives of various institutions. I think I saw IEA here. We've got some of from academia here with us, from GIMPA, from ISE, from a number of our academic institutions. You're all most welcome. We thank you for your presence. My colleague members, you don't need any welcoming. This one is sitting on your lap, so you're welcome nonetheless. We also invited some people to come help us in the second session. We've got a number of facilitators here with us, and we're grateful. Thank you all so much for coming. The media is here, and GBC graciously has agreed to cover this, at least the opening. We are going to be having a conversation, so we didn't really want the second part to be telecast or to be put on the airwaves. We wanted to have a good conversation, but they'll be here with us through the first part of this interaction. And I know our country, men and women, are also listening to us, maybe via GBC. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Our media, those who are going to hopefully carry this out in terms of this conversation and what really is important, what we should be looking at, they're also here with us. You're all welcome. And again, as we say in our typical Ghanaian parlance, all protocols observed. If I missed everybody, we cannot name everybody. Again, good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Presidential Committee on Emoluments of Article 71 office holders, normally referred to as PCE in short, let me first thank our gracious God for how far He's brought all of us. Let me thank the chairman for rising to the occasion with very little notice, as he himself has acknowledged, to take on the task to chair this event. Similarly, let me thank all our facilitators for agreeing to help make this conversation work for Mother Ghana. It's not for ourselves that we're doing this work. It's really for God and country, as our media people like to say. But I think on this occasion, I agree with them. It's not because of but it's really to try and move this conversation along for the country and for the best interest of the country as much as is possible. And lastly, let me thank all our invitees for honoring us with your presence this morning and for agreeing to be part of today's conversation on this issue of great interest and concern to many of us Ghanaians. We know that the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, constituted the 5-member Presidential Committee on Emoluments in accordance with Article 71 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana on the 31st of August 2023, with my good self as the chairperson. Again, a brief reminder, the terms of reference for the committee were listed as follows: to make recommendations on the emoluments and other privileges of Article 71 office holders as specified under our Constitution, and secondly, to examine any other relevant matters the committee deems appropriate to its work. Additionally, the President specifically tasked us to: 1. Review the work of previous PCEs. 2. To take a critical look at public concerns on the issues that have arisen from the implementation of the Article 71 constitutional provision. And thirdly, to make appropriate recommendations to him. It is noteworthy here that the current emoluments of the Article 71 office holders, as was said just a minute ago by the chairman, was approved in 2020. And thus, there has been no adjustment to the salaries, privileges, and benefits of the Article 71 office holders since 2020. Since the inauguration of the committee, we've had conversations with a number of Ghanaians, institutions, and beneficiaries of the Article 71 provision. This consultative process is ongoing, and today's interaction with you forms part of the committee's planned engagements with critical stakeholders like yourselves to gather your insights, comments, observations, and thoughts as we continue with our work as a committee. Today's event has sought to bring together a very broad-based stakeholder grouping to deliberate and make inputs that would help inform the review process and potentially our recommendations. We hope that with the help of us all, particularly our media partners, we can dispassionately have a fact-based conversation that will deepen the understanding of the public on these matters. Distinguished guests, permit me to take a moment of your time to quickly run through Articles 70 and 71 of the 1992 Republican Constitution, the key legal framework payable, and the facilities and privileges available to, and it starts listing: A, the Speaker and Deputy Speakers and Members of Parliament; B, Chief Justice and other Justices of the Superior Courts of Judicature; C, Auditor General, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Electoral Commission, the Commissioners of Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and his deputies, and the District Assembly's Common Fund Administrator; D, the Chairman, Vice Chairman, and other members of A, or 1, a National Council for Higher Education, howsoever described. And here I know that we know that in recent times we're referring to GTEC here. This used to be NCTE. Now they've metamorphosed somehow into GTEC. The Public Services Commission, the National Media Commission, the Lands Commission, and the National Commission for Civic Education. And then it goes on to say, being expenditure charged on the consolidated fund shall be determined by the President on the recommendation of a committee of not more than 5 persons appointed by the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State. And that's where our marching orders come from. So this committee's appointment is coming straight out of the Constitution. It's not a figment of any president's imagination. They are bound to have this committee formed and inaugurated. Now, 71(2) says the salaries and allowances payable and the facilities available to the President, the Vice President, the Chairman, and other members of the Council of State, Ministers of State, and Deputy Ministers, being expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund, shall be determined by the President on the recommendations of the committee referred to in Clause 1, which I read to you early on of this article. Now, 7.3 for me is one very much worth noting. It says, for purposes of this article, and except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, salaries includes allowances, facilities, and privileges, and retirement benefits or awards. And I'm inking that because really the work of the committee has to look at this third part to guide us in terms of what exactly are we supposed to be looking at when we do this work. Ladies and gentlemen, in accordance with these provisions in the 1992 Constitution, past presidents have set up different presidential committees on emoluments. These have included the Green Street Committee, which was set up by President J.J. Rawlings in the year 1993 to 1998. The Chinrihesi Committee, set up by President John Agyekum Kufuor in the year 2000 and also in the year 2008. The Yamson Review Committee, set up by President John Evans Atta Mills to review the 2008 report submitted by Chinrihesi Committee in the year 2009. A Ramadi Committee, set up by President John Evans Atta Mills again in the year 2010. The Edubuando Committee, set up by President John Dramani Mahama in the year 2016. And last but not least, the Ntia Mwabedu Committee, set up by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the year 2020. Mr. Chairman, I have taken time to run through the legal framework binding us and the work of prior committees guiding us as we deliver on this assignment. I humbly suggest that as we delve into our discussions today, we know that although the term ex gratia has become one of the prominent concepts we talk about when we look at the entire Article 71 constitutional provision, the term does not appear anywhere in the Article 71 provision that I just read to the hearing of us all. I also would like us to bear in mind that Article 71 is one of the entrenched provisions, apparently, in the Constitution, and as such has very, very strict rules relating to its removal, its cancellation, or its amendment. Yes, indeed, the provision can be amended, but there are strict constitutional processes that must be followed to change this provision in any form, foremost among which is the requirement for a national referendum, which I believe we could consider, if needs be, as we have successfully done with some instances since 1992. Against this backdrop, the committee has adopted some guiding principles to keep us focused on the assignment, including fairness, integrity, transparency, and equity, best practices, and paying attention to the socioeconomic context that we find ourselves in. The committee reiterates further that at its inauguration, the President charged us, as I indicated early on, to pay particular attention to recent public concerns raised on the emoluments, benefits, and privileges of Article 71 office holders. The charge further asks us to do this given the constitutional imperatives and the challenges confronting the national economy, among others. It is this charge and mandate which brings us here today. As we continue to work on this assignment, we are here today to seek your insights, views, and opinions in this Article 71 matter. The committee truly believes that this is a collective assignment for all of us as people who care deeply about our country. We have to brainstorm and put our collective wisdoms together and bring about some much needed clarity as we look ahead on the whole Article 71 matter. We are counting on everyone here today to help us examine this matter in a non-partisan, dispassionate, logical, fair and reasonable manner within the confines of the 1992 Constitution. We are counting on all of us to take these discussions as seriously as we can in the hope that our dear nation will at the end derive some productive value additions to this conversation. As I take my seat, I pray that God will bless us all as we do this assignment here today, and that God will bless our nation, Ghana, and continue to make her great and strong. And I didn't hear an amen. Oh. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Chair, Dr. Mrs. Janet Ampedu-Fofi Esquire, Chairperson on the PCE, Presidential Committee on Emoluments. So she's kind of laid the foundation for the next presentation that is going to happen. And probably I'll ask Nana Chair and his colleagues to probably descend so that you don't have neck problems craning to see what will be on the screen behind you. So there are some chairs there for you. So we're going to have now a presentation jumping off the remarks, the welcome remarks that our chair delivered a moment ago. And to do this presentation, we have a member of the Presidential Committee on Emoluments, Professor Isaac Osei Akoto. After his presentation, we will have discussions, contributions, any questions you have, you can pose to him. The whole idea is to get some public engagement input into the exercise that the committee is going to be undertaking. So let's welcome our professor for this with a round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Kafui. We used to be in a very famous hall. So when you are here, then my back is covered. And indeed, with the permission from the chair, before he sat down, he gave me the permission to continue. And I would like to also, take the protocol, Madam, beautifully established. So thank you very much, Madam, for doing that. In research work, they say you have to do two things. You have to establish inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. For this particular event, our inclusion criteria lies between two poles. If you have been listening to public discourse on this particular issue, you see these two poles very, very often. One is scrap the Article 71 office holders provisions, extreme end of it. The other says that we should extend it to everybody. So we know that during the breakout sessions, you may talk about these two issues. But for this morning event, we want to exclude them from the discussions for a special reason. The reason is that we want more inputs from you on the practical and the immediate sort of issues that we need to discuss, at least for the morning. In the afternoon, when you go into the breakout sessions, you can talk about them. My presentation is very, very short. I'm supposed to use just about 10 minutes. So what we have decided to do is to explain the the presentation, some of the issues Madam raised, just a few of them, and then after that, we will ask for your inputs on some thematic areas that we have prepared, which will be led by Auntie Esther later in the afternoon, not now. So I don't need to go over what Dr. Fofi said, but what we want to do is to explain the provisions, ask for your inputs, and sort of first is to look at the list. It's very important that we reflect on the list provided in the Constitution, so that in future, maybe now, in future, if we add on, then we'll know how to deal with it. We'll just go over the list briefly. I know it is on your lap. We have given a sheet for that. So I'll just flip through that side. And then we also look at the nature of emoluments and a brief on how the various committees determine that. And then we raise maybe one or two or three issues in the public. In that case, then we'll be inviting you to help us in terms of detailed discussions on those issues and the recommendations that will help us to write the report. We have been working, but we have not finished. And because we have been sent by the president, we cannot, at this stage, present the preliminary findings. It will not be sort of appropriate when we have not heard from you, because your input is also very, very critical for this process. So the first one, Madam talked about two groups. The first is the legislature, judiciary, ICBs, and others that need, their conditions of service and the emoluments and all other things are supposed to be determined by the president, and obviously with recommendations, based on recommendations from this committee. And then the other group is the legislature. Now this is still the legislature. As Madam said, you have the speaker, deputy speakers, and other office holders within that particular group. And then you have the Chief Justice and other justices of the Superior Court of Judicature. Then you have the auditor, the president himself or herself, the vice president, and the chairman and the other members of the Council of State, and ministers of state and deputy ministers. So the usual approval process, we are all familiar with it. The first group, emoluments determined by the president, acting in accordance with the Council of State, with the advice of the Council of State. And then the second group should be determined by Parliament, all based on the recommendations of this committee. If you go through the list, you will see that these high-powered individuals in the society, in fact, they sit at the top of almost everybody in this country. Those groups are not homogeneous. That is why this particular work sometimes is a bit tricky. They are not homogeneous. They have different contractual arrangements. Some of them have fixed and non-fixed terms. You have career progression, non-career progression for some of them. You have full-time and part-time members, and a combination of that. And then you have those with appointments that can be terminated tomorrow. So when you are looking at the processes to determine the emoluments, then you need to take all of these into consideration. it's not one fits all sort of a situation. Because sometimes the timing of even the payment to some of the groups is very, very important. If you do not take care, you cause a lot of life-threatening sort of problems for them. It is important to note that, and Madam mentioned that when you see the word salaries, then we are referring to, we are also adding allowances, facilities and privileges, and retiring benefits or awards. The process begins with the human